These are the best long-range weapons for you to use inside of Season 3 of Warzone. I've used these to reach top 100 inside of Rebirth ranked, even reach a 15 KD at one point, and perhaps more importantly, I put in dozens of hours testing out all these guns, both in games and in the firing range, because the stats are important. We're going to talk about those, but if you haven't gotten the reps in, you don't really know what's best. Well, trust me when I say these are insane loadouts that you're going to have a blast using both in Urzikstan and Rebirth Island. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to use true game data. He goes through and both manually pulls all the numbers and data mines the numbers from the site, and he gets all this really valuable information so we can compare time to kill of weapons. Now, this is after the Season 3 update, so all these numbers are updated, and we'll see there are 3 very important weapons that I'm going to use as a baseline. We have the Bruin Mark 9, we have the SOA Subverter, and we have the Ram 7. As you can see, the SOA Subverter is the fastest killing weapon in the game right now. And in general, if you haven't seen these graphs before, this is time to kill on the left. So the lower it is means it is less time, which means it's killing faster. The Ram 7, as you can see, got nerfed pretty hard. And then the Bruin is kind of our mid-range. It kills plenty quick, but it's a little bit more controllable than the SOA Subverter. So before I get into the weapons you should be using, let me quickly disclaim what, some of your friends might be telling you in voice chats. They're like, dude, this is gas, I promise. It's not, okay? Don't believe the hype on some of these weapons. We're going to go through some ARs. Don't believe the hype. People are gassing up the Lockman 556 because, yes, it got buffed, but look how high it is. It is terrible. Keep in mind, the RAM is right there, that blue line. And as you can see, the Lockman 556 is way too far off in terms of time to kill. From there, the TR-76 Geist. I'm hearing some gas around the Geist. It's just as bad as the RAM, but less controllable, and I believe less damage per mag as well. It is not worth running. Same thing goes for the Holger 556 and the MTZ 556. First off, these have very little damage per mag. They're both kind of pea shooters. They're a little bit straighter to shoot. I don't think the Holger 556 is that controllable, but when we're talking about an AR, shooting long range across the map, killing someone off a head glitch at that 50 to 60 meter mark, okay, things like the Bruin are going to be significantly better, and some of the LMGs that I'm going to show you as well are going to be significantly better. I don't think the Holger and the MTZ 556 are worth running. Okay, let me discredit some LMGs real quick as well, because I'm hearing some gas around the PKM. It is horrible at long range. Yes, you get a 100-round mag and you can spam like crazy, but when you compare it to something like the Bruin down here at the red line, it's just not worth running. Same thing goes for the Evolveer and the Eradicator. I don't know where people are coming in love with these weapons, but trust me, they are not worth it, especially when you compare it to some of the weapons that I'm about to show you. These are the guns that you need to be rocking inside of Season 3. So once again, at the bottom, we have the SOA Subverter, which is the fastest killing weapon inside of the game. At the top, we have the Ram 7, which some people just love the weapon, so you can use that. Let's work our way down. The SVA. It doesn't kill that fast, but the build I'm about to show you legitimately has 0 recoil, and I found a way to make it even better if you've seen that build in the past. Then, look at the red line, the Bruin. These are 4 weapons that are pretty much interchangeable depending on your playstyle, and it's the Holger 2.6, which is the LMG, not the Holger 5.56, the Holger 2.6 LMG. We have the BP-50, which I don't think gets enough love because it has great movement and legitimately like near 0 recoil. We have the Bruin, which we've already talked about, and then surprise, surprise, something I've gassed up a lot in the past, the RAP H, an MW2 LMG with very minimal recoil and insanely fast fire rate. Let's go ahead and get into the builds of these weapons. Now, I've been talking a lot about ARs and LMGs, but probably the most exciting long-range weapon of Warzone Season 3 is the new Moors Sniper Rifle. It is some of the most fun I've had sniping since like the Kar 98 of Verdansk, or even the SPR, because if you remember, the SPR when it first dropped was hit scan, and this feels just the same because it has a charge barrel that when you charge up, it raises the bullet velocity and it raises the damage, which allows it to one-shot headshot at any range across the entire map. But you're like, the Cat AMR can one-shot headshot across the entire map. But the Cat AMR only has a bullet velocity of around 800 to 1,000, depending on how you build it. When I'm using this, my guess was around 1,600 meters per second. True game data ran the numbers at full charge. It is 1,700 meters per second. Okay, and in order to do this, all you need to do is you need to hold your right click or hold your left mouse button. That fully charges it up, aim down sight, and then release, and it will one-shot headshot. So here's the build. We have the photonic charge barrel. That's what allows us to get that charge up, but keep in mind, if it is not fully charged, as you can see there, you won't have the damage and velocity. But Once it's fully charged, 435 to the head, 257 to the chest, which means it's going to one-shot kill people who are dropping in from the gulag and only have 2 out of 3 plates. It's so dang good. From there, we have the Razorhawk Light, which is going to give us an even faster aim down sight speed and also a faster sprint fire speed as well. We have the Super Light Stock, which is helping with all of our movement speed. We have the OP Grip, which helps out with our ADS speed as well. And then finally, the anti-material, not the explosive, the anti-material slugs, which help out with all of that damage as well. This is the build right here. If you guys are taking a screenshot, make sure you are subscribing because we have a lot of awesome builds to come. Now, we also will have a close range build coming tomorrow, but I first want to shout out the sponsor of today's video, and that is Scuff. There's no better time to get a Scuff in your hands because we're back on Rebirth Island and lobbies are sweaty. Use those paddles to get faster movement and cleaner slide cancels. Use the rapid fire digital triggers for super fast fire rate with that starter pistol. And the reputation is bulletproof. Ever since Corsair and Scuff partnered together, their latest 3 drops with the Reflex for PlayStation, the Instinct for Xbox, and now the Envision for PC have been bulletproof. And so is their warranty, a 1-year warranty for all of these next-gen products. And even Scuff haters, when they try the new products, are kind of like, yeah, okay, they're starting to cook here. My weapon of choice is the Envision, and the fact that I can use those G keys and the side action buttons and the digital triggers on top of the paddles, it just allows me to do everything that I can when I play mouse and keyboard. But with the benefit of playing with aim assist on controller, it's just my weapon of choice, and it's helped elevate my game so much, and I think it will for you as well. If you want to try out Scuff, click the link down in the pinned comment and the description. You can use code Isaac for a discount, and if you've already purchased a Scuff and you want to get yourself a faceplate, maybe you bought the OG Envision or the OG Instinct, you can now buy the IceManIsaac faceplate for both the Instinct and the Envision. It looks beautiful on your coffee table, your couch, wherever it may be. It looks really vibrant in person. And a huge thank you again to Scuff for sponsoring today's video. Moving on, we have the second build of the Moors, which is going to be a little bit more of a conventional build that you guys are used to. It's not going to have the charge up mechanic, but it still does have a one-shot headshot potential at any range. Now, as you can see here, you don't need to charge up, and it's going to feel a little bit more quick-scopy like the other guns we've used in the past. And as we would expect, it is a one-shot headshot. For me, this is one of my favorite snipers ever because as you look down on the bottom right, it is 1 bullet at a time. So you're never going to have a sequence where you're trying to shoot someone as they're crossing where, oh, shoot, I have to reload my 5-round mag, and now that player is going to make it behind a wall, and I can't shoot. No, you can constantly be ready for the next shot, the next player. The only annoying part is you can't stay aim down sight while you put that bullet back in. But here is the build, okay? A lot of it's going to be the same. We're still going to have that anti-material slug. We're still going to have the OP grip. We're still going to have the super light stock. Now, one thing I want to mention here is this gun has horrible aiming sway. As I aim down sight, you will see it sways quite a bit. Even if you were to put a foregrip and the heavy stock, which some people suggest because it helps out with aiming idle sway, it still sways a lot. And frankly, in my opinion, it's not really worth it because it's, one, going to make the gun aim down sight slower, and it still sways quite a bit that every shot you're going to end up holding your breath anyways. So I would rather get that gun up fast and then just hold my breath. Okay, and that's what I've done. I built a weapon to where I just aim down sight fast, hold my breath, and take the shot. Even if I'm aiming down at very long ranges, I can hold my breath long enough to hit the shot. Okay, so we have the OP grip, the super light stock. We're rocking the Razorhawk light, and then we're changing the barrel from the photonic charge over to the ton heavy, which gives us about a 900 meter per second bullet velocity, but it's going to be snappier than the charge because you don't have to charge that bullet up. Honestly, what I end up doing with the charge barrel is I'll end up charging it underneath cover, and then I'll stand up, look for it, and release. But this is what a lot of players are rocking as their main sniper because it has that more traditional sniper feel. And go ahead and take your screenshot. So that's going to wrap it up for the snipers in today's videos. We're going to move on to the SOA Subverter. And for this, because it's so dominant, I also have 2 builds. This is the last one where I'm going to double up on the build, but it's so important that you all find a build that works for you. So the SOA Subverter is so powerful, as we've seen, but it's got a little bit of an S-curve in the recoil. So I found a build that actually mitigates a lot of that S-curve and makes it very controllable. So as you see, I have no touch on my thumbstick whatsoever. And this, because of my build, is only a little bit of pull left, right, left, and it makes it very easy to control. And as I always suggest, find yourself a bright iron sight. Now, I'll show you a build with a sight here in a moment because some people don't like iron sight builds. But if you're an aggressive player and you're a controller player, I would encourage you to try this build first. The camo that I have on here is a raid camo from MW2. You go in, you go to the event camo, and that's what I have. If you don't have this camo, fortunately, the Subverter Mastery camo actually comes with this little fishy camo. And you can see it's a bright neon like turquoise, and that works out pretty well. I prefer mine, but in general, anytime I do an iron sight build, I always try to make sure it's bright so I have good visibility when I'm shooting down range. Okay, here's the build. We have the Dozer long barrel, which helps out with both recoil control and bullet velocity. We have the TLR8, which is an MW2 muzzle, but it helps out by minus 27% on that horizontal shake. I typically would go with something like a Cassis brake, but there's so much horizontal in that S curve, I pulled out the TLR8 for this one. From there, we have the Bruin Heavy Support Grip because it helps out with horizontal as well as, more importantly, firing aim stability, which is such a critical stat for controlling your recoil. I then have high velocity ammo. Why? Because by default, this gun only has 850 meters per second, which is on the low end of what I like for ARs. Especially if I brought this in a big map, I prefer high velocity, which brings it up to 1,000. The damage range doesn't really matter because at different damage ranges, the SOA doesn't change its time to kill based off of, you know, how the damage numbers work out. It actually doesn't affect it that much. So the actual important thing for this build is bullet velocity. And there we have the 50 round drum, and it turns into what I believe to be the perfect build for Rebirth, where most engagements are under 50 meters and you have so much damage per mag where you can just smoke and melt your opponents with this amazing build that I've got right here. Okay, go ahead and make sure you guys are taking your screenshot. Now, if you prefer an optic, and I totally understand that, we're gonna go ahead and sacrifice that high velocity ammo, right? We needed to sacrifice one of the attachments, and I chose not to sacrifice the TLR8 and the Bruin Heavy Support because they help out so much with that horizontal. And then by throwing on the Jack Glassless, we actually get more firing aiming stability, which is gonna make this gun feel even more like a beam. But as I've always mentioned, I feel like I get more aim assist with iron sight guns. So you're going to lose a little bit of that, but you're going to get a very clear sight picture. And I think especially for mouse and key players, this is going to be the preferred build. I'm still back and forth on which one I would run because I do really like the Jack Glassless. But it is significantly more controllable with this loadout. But you do lose out on a little bit of that bullet velocity. But here is my build for the SOA Subverter with an optic. All right, moving on, let's cover some more guns. So, like I mentioned, the Moore Sniper and the SOA are kind of like the two super exciting dominant weapons, but there's also some surprises that have kind of come out of the woodwork. And one of them is the Rap H. This has always been one of my favorite weapons in the game, but now we get to combine it with some MW3 attachments like the Jack Glassless. And look at this. Super easy to control, extremely fast fire rate, and the dummies aren't always accurate when you throw on 3 plates, but to prove the point that it beams, I mean, I'm hardly moving my thumb. I'm not even getting any rotational aim assist because I'm not touching my left thumbstick. It's too easy to control. And if, for a lot of you who are coming back for Rebirth Island, don't have your MW3 weapons leveled up, the Rap H, if you have it from MW2, can be a really nice starter weapon on both big map and small map because this gun has a 1,200 meter per second bullet velocity with this build. Now, I didn't build this out fully for recoil control. If I wanted more recoil control, I could throw on the Spirit Fire Suppressor, which would help out with recoil, but it's so easy to control, I rocked for the Sonic Suppressor, which does not hurt my aim down sight speed, but the Spirit Fire does hurt my aim down sight speed. So that's why I went with the Sonic Suppressor there. You can make changes based on your personal preference. From there, we have the Romeo Barrel, the Heavy Support Grip. We threw on the high velocity rounds because we can just really take advantage of the fact that we already have an extended mag built in, get that insane, making it easy to beam people in long ranges, and then the Jack Glassless because that firing aiming stability just makes it so much easier to beam people at long ranges. This is my Rap H build. So pretty exciting to finally see an MW2 weapon. If you weren't tracking in the most recent update, they actually made it to where all MW2 weapons have less visual smoke and flare that they used to, which is going to make them a lot more usable. Now they just need to make it to where the stats back that up because statistically, this is one of the few weapons that I can actually use that's worth using because most of the other ones, like we saw with the Lockman 556, are just so terrible off the charts. They want you to buy MW3, play their multiplayer because, well, they got to make their money, right? but exciting for any of you who do like MW2 weapons. Moving forward, we have the Bruin, which I broke my personal kill record of 40 kills on the big map with the Bruin, and it's just too good. It's back to the glory days. It kills faster than most ARs inside of the game, but it feels just as mobile as an AR without feeling like it has that LMG time to kill. I mean, I'm hardly moving my thumbstick right here, showing the recoil pattern, hands completely off the controller. I mean, boys, that's pretty easy to control. Just down and to the right. The second you press that right trigger, build that relationship with your thumb, and then no rotational aim assist doing anything. Just a little bit of a pull down and to the right, and you got it. The build here is pretty straightforward with what we've seen with a lot of the builds. We have the Horizon barrel. We also have the Spirit Fire suppressor for that increased bullet velocity. We have the Bruin heavy support grip, the 60-round mag, which is going to help us a lot when it comes to our movement stats. And then, of course, we have the Jack glassless optic as well. This is my Bruin long-range meta build. If you guys are taking your screenshots and you like the builds that I have so far, because while I may be a top 250 player and I play this game for a living, I try to make sure all of the builds are relatable and usable for the average player. So if you appreciate that, make sure to drop a like on this video and subscribe, because we will have the close range variants coming tomorrow. Okay, moving forward to some of the final weapons that we have here, we have the Holger 2.6. I much prefer this to the Holger 5.56. One, even though it's an LMG, I think it's easier to control the recoil. And two, it has more damage per mag because it has a 60-round mag as opposed to a 40-round mag. And, as I mentioned, very controllable. I mean, it just doesn't get easier than that, gentlemen. So here's the recoil pattern. Aim down sight, hand off the thumbsticks. As you can see, kind of like the Bruin, just pretty much up and to the right. Very, very easy to control as you're beaming people across the map. And of course, it has large damage per mag with a 60-round mag. But because I don't have to attach a magazine to it, I can apply more recoil mitigating attachments like the Ascent Lord stock, which helps out with the recoil control, the Holger factory barrel, which helps out with damage range and recoil control, the Spirit Fire, and the Bruin heavy support grip, and of course the Jack glassless optic, making this one of my go-to weapons inside of Big Map Warzone. Moving forward from there, we have the BP-50, which is one of my favorite weapons to rock inside of solos and duos, and I think it'll be an amazing Rebirth Island gun because it's so mobile and it's so quick to kill, and especially for players who haven't returned to the game in a while, very, very low recoil, both visual and actual. And for people that like iron sight builds, like myself, I mean, typically, like I mentioned, iron sight builds have a lot of aim assist. I mean, it's so good. And that strafing shooting speed is so fast as well compared to most other weapons in the game. Like this isn't even a strafe build. This is a low recoil build, but you can build this to be extremely, extremely strafey. But here's the build that I have to mitigate the most amount of recoil. I have the Spirit Fire suppressor. I have the Lore heavy barrel. I have the Bruin heavy support, the 45-round mag, and then up top, we have the Moat 40 stock, which helps out loads with the recoil control. Now, there's some other things you can do here. I have some strafe builds I've mentioned in the past, but I think for the average player trying to beam people across the map, even for mouse and key players, with a bright optic, with a bright iron sight, I think this is just as usable as the RAM, because a lot of mouse and keyboard players like the RAM because it has such a clean sight picture and very, very, very easy to see because there's not a lot of smoke, not a lot of haze, and most importantly, not a lot of shake. I think even mouse and key players would be fine using this without an optic. All right, moving on to our second to last. It is the SVA, but I've made some changes to make this even better. Okay, do not rock the SVA as just a full auto build. As you can see there, it's shaking quite a bit. It's still pretty manageable in terms of the recoil, but press left on the D-pad, change it to single fire, and now it is legitimately a zero recoil weapon. And with something like a Scuff, where I have digital triggers, where it's basically mouse clicks, it makes it so easy to rapid fire with a gun like this. And the build that I've made makes it even easier. Okay, the reason being is a lot of times we would rock an underbarrel because we wanted the least amount of recoil. Well, when we throw it onto single fire, that doesn't matter anymore. So what we do is we throw on high grain rounds, which helps out our damage range and our bullet velocity. So now we have 1100 meters per second bullet velocity, zero recoil, and of course, the damage that we know to expect with it. We saw it was in the mid-range, right in line with every other LMG and AR that we've seen. At range, it's a little bit worse than the Ram 7, but you have to keep in mind, It's all about how effective you can be at range. If this gun has 0 recoil, it's probably going to be more effective than an LMG where you're maybe hitting 60, 70% of your shots at 70 meters. Whereas this, you could potentially hit 100% of your shots at 70 meters because it has 0 recoil. It's a lot of fun to use. Make sure you throw it into that single fire mode and just spam away, rip people off of head glitches, and have fun with the SVA build. I threw on the 60 round mag, the Corio's Eagle Eye, the precision barrel. You can change up the sight as you see fit, but this is how I like to rock my SVA. Before we get on to the final build, once again, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and drop a comment down below if I have missed any of your favorite long-range weapons. I've done a lot of research. I've compared for hours on True Game Data site, going through all of the different ones, comparing what I thought would be better versus worse, what you shouldn't be wasting your time on. So if you appreciate that effort, comment down below. Let me know if I missed anything, and drop a like because we got a lot of videos coming in the near future. And then finally, we have the trusty old Ram 7. Now, you might be thinking, Isaac, I thought you said it was nerfed to oblivion. It was nerfed pretty hard. Inside of 40 meters, it's still incredible. And for Rebirth Island, a lot of those fights are still inside of 40 meters. In fact, in the finals of a massive tournament that happened yesterday, a lot of the pros were still using the Ram 7, even though statistically it wasn't as good. They're so comfortable with shooting it. It has such little recoil, and being an iron sight build with a super clean sight, it makes it to where it's super controllable. Now, it's so important that you build the right build with this RAM, because if you don't have the right attachments, you're going to have a lot of visual shake. With this build, and with this build only, as you see, not touching my thumbstick, there's not all that nasty smoke, haze, jerking around that you would see in your front sight, and it's because of this combination of attachments. It's very rare that we see a specific set of attachments causing 0 visual recoil, but that's what does it. It's the HVS pad combined with the Bruin heavy support, combined with the Zim compensator, and the Cronin headwind barrel. Those combinations of 4 attachments makes this thing an absolute beam, and it's been pretty much a must use. And while it's fallen a little bit out of the meta, it's still very viable for a lot of players to use, even in the highest levels of tournaments and ranked, because it's Mr. Reliable. And with a high fire rate, it makes it very forgivable. If you miss 1 or 2 shots, you can get right back on target. And a lot of people still love their Ram 7. But ladies and gentlemen, that go ahead and wraps up this video. If you want, check out the Reflex for PS5, the Instinct for Xbox, or the Envision for PC, and use code Isaac for a discount. That'll be linked in the pinned comment and the description. Make sure to subscribe, turn those notifications on, because we're going to have some close range videos dropping here tomorrow. Now, I mentioned notifications because a lot of times I find out about some sneaky stuff, some stuff that you want to find out first, whether it's tips, tricks, or broken loadouts. Make sure those notifications are on because you want to be the first to find out. Because oftentimes, I think devs watch my videos and things get patched within 24 hours, 48 hours after I drop a video on it. So don't miss out. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you learned a lot. Hope you got a lot of screenshots of me on your phone. And I will see you all on the next one. Peace.